back to work on these new flare boots on the Caliban figure legs. This step we're going to be working with AVES FIXIT Sculpt. We've already on step 1 we ground down, reshaped the lower legs to fit with these smaller feet. Part 2, we took the styrene and built a skeletal structure to sculpt onto. Since these come off the leg a little bit, you don't want to try to do all that with just sculpting material itself. Plus this gives you a line to sculpt to, so you can kind of keep a nice clean line with sculpting. Okay, and we also going to need some water. This is for smoothing. With this AVES FIXIT, you can just use water to smooth down the epoxy. Okay, we'll start with the left leg here, left boot. First things first, let's get some epoxy up. This is a 2-part epoxy. I bought 3 pounds of it back years ago. So it's lasted me a long time. And it's an equal part, 2-part mix. And I use my sculpting tool just to pull out. This is the hardening agent. And a little bit more. Part A out, part B. Looks like equal amounts. And this is all there is to this here, is just knead it together until you get one solid color. Just roll it, knead it. This material you have a nice long work time, so you can gives you plenty of time to work and sculpt. Add a little bit of extra moisture to your clay to help work it. Alright, it's well mixed. Let's start applying it to the for this kind of sculpting. I'm just going to flatten it out as much as I can and start wrapping around. Actually, let's do a little bit of creaming. You want to take your water and wet your finger and start pressing it in. So with using the styrene, I got a place where I can press to. It keeps my nice clean edge for the sculpt. I think I might have enough for this one boot. Just work it with your fingers. Just keep keep it moist, and you can push it, smooth it. Get a little bit more on top of the boot. Once you're done with this too, you can always, it doesn't have to be perfectly sculpted. You can take your Dremel and smooth it down even more, and different stages of sandpaper. Actually got a little bit too much clay on here, so take my knife and shave off some of it. We were talking about before with the Caliban legs, where they have this weird angle to them. The shin bone kicks over to the side. We can take this opportunity and give us a center that out with using clay, make a new center line for the lower legs. Anyone guess what I'm actually working on? Anything you can tell from the big flared boot? I think this one, it looks pretty good. Once this sets up, I can do some finish sanding onto it. I think that turned out really well. I'm gonna let this set up, do some finish sanding. Now, for you it'll be just instantaneous. For me, I'll have to do the finish sanding tomorrow. I need to let this set up overnight, let the epoxy harden. I'll see you here in a little bit. It's actually had time for the epoxy to set up. So you can see this is nice rock hard epoxy. And this one I've actually had a chance to work a little bit, smooth down. You can see I've shaped it with took a little bit of with my Dremel, just smooth some of the high spots, and with a little bit of 220 sandpaper, got a nice smooth finish on the epoxy itself. This one's just about ready for some primer and a coat of paint. Let's set this one to the side and look at the other one. The other one, when I was put the epoxy on, it got some little bits of shaving on there, so it didn't get a nice smooth finish. So we're gonna do a little bit of reworking, and plus on this side here was a little flat, so I had to add a little extra after it's set up. And we're gonna grind this down to match the other one. I got a fresh, larger barrel bit. We're gonna smooth this down. This is just like what we did with step 1 in this process. And when you're doing this grinding like this is going to create a lot of dust. I do recommend wearing like a respirator or a face, well, since we all have face masks now, so we can actually use that for keeping the dust out of our face as well. Let's take a look and compare it with the other one. I'm just about there, I do believe. A little bit of the roundness, take this down just a little bit. Not much. Okay. I think for basic shape, that looks pretty good. I think the only left now to do some refined sanding on this part. We're looking pretty good. I think we're about there. They'll be like this when they're done. This looks a pretty good match so far. Still a bit of cleaning up. And other than that, it is done. A few little fine details just to clean up. But that will pretty much sums up the last part of this tutorial here with sculpting these flared boots. see how the other foot. One of the things I did to when I was make these feet work a little better, I did add a little bit of epoxy in the bottom. What I did when I did this to make them fit the legs really well, I put a thin skim coat in here. Then I want to push the foot in. Make sure it's put plenty of water on that so it'll move freely. I pushed the foot in and just worked it and pressed it in to push out the excess, and just took my hobby knife and just trimmed it out. Let that set up, and it made a nice smooth transition. The ankle fits into the foot just fine now. Oh, I just put that foot on backwards. That's better. There we go. I think that looks good. I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll do a little bit of finish refining. But that sums up all you need to do with this method of reshaping, building the skeletal structure for the sculpt onto, then using the epoxy as a filler and smoother, and making new boots. If you know what I'm working on, give a shout out in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Like, share, subscribe. There'll be more customizing content coming up in the future. Bye-bye.